Hey, Freddy with CJ Pony Parts. This 2016 Fiesta ST is completely bone stock, which is a good thing for the time being. The first thing we're going to do to it, and the first thing you should consider doing to yours, is an oil separator. Because of the direct injection, it's extremely important that the valves don't get gummed up with carbon or oil, and to combat that, we're going to be installing this Mishimoto oil separator. This Mishimoto billet aluminum oil separator mounts in line with the PCV system to separate and hold the oil rather than letting it get into the intake, which reduces octane rating and can cook the intake valves in carbon and oil, resulting in poor performance and potential damage. Installation will be an absolute breeze, and today we're going to be installing it on this 2016 Fiesta ST. Tools you'll need for this installation: a 1/4" ratchet, 7mm socket, 3/8 ratchet, 12mm socket, T30 Torx bit, 11/16 wrench, a 2.5mm Allen key, Phillips head screwdriver, and a trim removal tool or a flathead screwdriver. The installation of this oil separator is actually going to be really easy. You don't need to put the carp in the air, you don't need a lift or jack stands, but the first thing we have to do is take the headlight out. Remove the 2 T30 bolts securing in the headlight. You also need to remove this Phillips head clip. Push back on the headlight. Disconnect the electrical connector and remove the headlight. Mishimoto does include a new nut and bolt to mount the bracket, but when we tried to remove our nuts and bolts, they were so incredibly tight that the nuts just stripped and we couldn't remove them, but there were enough studs left on the bolt that we just threaded the Mishimoto nut onto that to secure the bracket. Slide this bracket over the studs and thread on the supplied nuts. We can now assemble the catch can itself. Take both supplied barbs and thread them into the holes. These are tapered threads, so they're not going to seat all the way when they get tight. Grab yourself an 11/16 wrench and tighten them up. Once again, these probably are not going to seat all the way when they're tight. And you don't want to make them too tight because you don't want to break the fittings. They are plastic. The barbs are nice and tight, this can now go on the bracket. Install the catch can onto the bracket. Line it up with the holes and thread the supplied hardware in. Now we still have to attach the hoses, so you don't need to make this super tight just yet, and it is slightly adjustable. But now we can install the hoses. We will now be replacing this PCV hose right here with Mishimoto hose. Simply pinch this connector here and pinch this one on the sides as well. Then use a screwdriver or a trim removal tool to remove the clip and remove the hose. There are 2 separate hoses and they have their own place to go. The hose with 2 bends goes up top and the hose with 1 bend goes down bottom. Put a hose clamp on each hose and slide it onto the catch can. Simply clip it into the factory connector. There we go. And now the top hose. Tighten up each hose clamp with either a 7mm socket or a flathead screwdriver. Tighten the hex bolts on top of the catch can. Now that the catch can is completely installed, we can reinstall the headlight. Reinstall the 2 bolts that secure the headlight. Reinstall the clip. Reconnect the headlight, and your installation's finished. Our Mishimoto oil separator is installed. It's going to keep this Fiesta ST running stronger for longer. Installation should take about 30 minutes, and before you know it, you'll be heading down the road.